Yeah, I forgot. I always try to remember to Google before we go into a new country if there are any holidays during the time we are there. But luckily in Malaysia, in the elevator of the high-rise building we were staying at, there was a sheet of paper and it was announced about the holiday on Monday, June 2nd, 2025. The birthday of Yang di Pertuan Agong was celebrated. I'm sorry, maybe I pronounced that wrong, most likely. So that was a holiday. And that's why we decided to go a day later to Georgetown on Penang Island, because we didn't want to go on the holiday, so we went a day later. Here is the video about Georgetown, Penang Island. But we didn't know that the day after the holiday, still a lot of stuff was closed. So now we try to remember not just on the actual holiday stuff could be closed, maybe also the day after or even several days after. So we always have to think about that now. We went to Georgetown a second time and that's also in the same video. Paul found out about another holiday that was celebrated, an Islamic Eid al-Adha, or however you pronounce it, June 7th. But it's celebrated from the 6th until the 10th. And on the 7th, on the actual holiday, yes, the singing from the mosque close by where we were living was much longer. It lasts much longer than usual. So we were pretty sure because of the holiday. Yes, the majority of Malaysia is Islamic. Malaysia is very multicultural. So most are Malay, but there are also many Chinese and Indians there, and also some indigenous minorities. So religions. There are mainly Islam, 63.5%, Buddhism, 18.7%, Christianity, 9.1%, Hinduism, 6.1%. So you see mosques, temples, churches, everything. Kind of cool. We stayed 20 days in Malaysia, from May 30th until June 19th, 2025 in the state of Penang. Not where Georgetown is, Penang Island, where it's famous touristic. No, on the mainland, not Penang Island. We stayed in Perai, and especially where we were staying, it was very Islamic. From our window, from our Airbnb on the 40th floor, we could see many, many mosques. Okay, Paul found a lot of mosques. So we have here, number 1, number 2, number 3, the tower, number 4, another tower there, number 5, the big one, number 6, apparently one more, where, number 7. When we went to the mall closest to us, just a 15-minute walk away, I always made sure my shoulders were covered up. There were women there, they showed their hair, they showed their legs, but they never exposed their shoulders. So I always made sure mine were covered up, and of course I only have sleeveless shirts, so yeah, I just put something over it. So most times in that mall, there weren't many people there, only like right before the holidays. The women there were 85 to 90% Muslim. Everything but face and hands covered up. There were also Chinese and Indian people where we lived, but many, many more Muslims. I already knew that Chinese people are very superstitious about the number 4 because in a Cantonese dialect I read, but I think also just in Mandarin, the number 4 sounds very, very similar to the word death. So they avoid the number 4 whenever and wherever they can. Paul already told me that years ago. I don't know if it's like that everywhere in Malaysia, but where we were living in that high rise, in the elevator, there they took out the number 4. So you had 3A and 13A and so on instead of the 4, 4, 14, like that. But when it got to the number 40, then there was a 40, 41, 42, 43, so and so on. So I don't really know why then suddenly the 40 and 40 up is okay. I don't know. More about the apartment here in the video Airbnb in Penang, Malaysia. The weather was pretty good. I read that between March and August, there would be more rainfall in Penang. But we were really lucky. Yes, it was raining sometimes, but actually never when we were outside. We also had some thunderstorms, but much more during the night. It was humid and hot, but not too hot. So we were there in June. It's the beginning of the southwest monsoon season. We always spend so much money on supplements. It's a must for us to stay healthy. And we wanted to stock up our supplements in Malaysia before we would go to Singapore for 6 weeks. We thought, Malaysia is probably cheaper than Singapore. So at the Sunway Carnival Mall, we found the LAC nutrition store. Well, it was more like a stall than a store. So we spent 1,238.85 ringgit, that is $293.05 for supplements. We only found probiotics for me. Unfortunately, their supplements are not clean, meaning they have fillers and stuff, and I try to avoid that. If I don't really have to, I don't wanna take supplements with all the fillers. So we mostly stock up the supplements for Paul. We spent so much money that we got a bag for free and a thermos. Pretty cool. Paul drinks hot tea, coffee, and just hot water all day long. And I actually drink hot water also almost every day. So yeah, pretty cool. We got that. And so for now, we for sure will keep it while we travel around with ferries, trains, and just grab. But later when we will fly again, I don't know, I was actually thinking then to get rid of it, not to keep it, because it's heavy, it's more weight. But Paul already grew so attached to it, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to get rid of it and he wants to keep it. I think I'll let him keep it. Oh, we found vitamin D3 in 2 different stores. Of course, never with the oil I would like, but it's not about that right now. It's about the quantity. So the D3 were always just 1,000 units or even 500, but no more than 1,000 units. So in Malaysia, you don't get D3 more higher than 1,000 units. Paul and I usually take 5,000 units a day. Right now, I'm taking 4,000 units a day, and then I was actually taking 8,000 units a day. So like just 1,000 units, it's like nothing. But in entire Malaysia, and actually full disclosure, also in Singapore, you don't find D3 in a higher dosage than 1,000 units. We did find hydrogen peroxide. We bought that big bottle, but it was 6%. We use 3%. We use it for brushing our teeth. But hey, no problem. We just buy some distilled water and dilute it. But we couldn't find any distilled water anywhere. Well, we only looked at pharmacies and drugstores, so I don't know if they have it somewhere else. But honestly, I don't think so, because again, here I can say we also didn't find it anywhere in Singapore and maybe also Indonesia. I think Singapore, so I think they just don't have that. Yeah, I think they just don't have distilled water. Anyways, when we were in Malaysia, we bought that 6% hydrogen peroxide, and we were thinking, oh, we will just dilute it. We couldn't find distilled water and said, oh, no problem. We still have enough left over from the other hydrogen peroxide. We won't use it until we get to Singapore. So at that time, we didn't worry about it at all. I brought a lot of tampons with me because I read and heard basically everywhere in Southeast Asia, including Japan and South Korea, they barely have any tampons. They use pads, and I fucking hate pads. I think they're so gross. So I didn't need any tampons, but I was still looking for them because I was curious if they have them. And especially I was looking for tampons with an applicator and not those stupid OB ones. So at the hypermarket at the Mid-In Mall, closest to where we were living, I could only find pads. So a shit ton of pads, no tampons. But at Billions, another grocery store, I found them. But of course, only OBs, nothing else. And again, a shit ton of pads. Really, here in Asia, oh my gosh, they have so many different kinds of pads. I don't think I ever wore pads. No, that's not true. Maybe at the very, very beginning. But so, yeah, I hate pads. I'm so glad I brought my tampons from Switzerland. Paul needed earphones. His broke. It took us a while to find the ones he wanted, but then again at the Mid-In Mall, we found them. Perfect, exactly the ones he wanted, and they were so much cheaper than in the US. 10 ringgit, $2.36. Holy shit. In the US, Paul paid between $14 and $18. So we bought 2 pairs. Back at the apartment, he charged the new earphones and he tried to pair them and they didn't work. Both of them. They just didn't work. The guy that sold them to Paul told him if they don't work, if there's a problem, he could bring them back. But we thought that guy there probably needs those 20 ringgit, those $4.72, much more than we do. So we didn't bring them back. And guess what? Paul tried his old earphones again that didn't work anymore, and they worked again. So they weren't broken. But then later on, they actually didn't work again either. So I think sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. So he still needed new ones. Anyways, we did go back to the same mall, and there at Mr. Gadget, we found other ones, and this time for more money. 39.99 Malaysian ringgits. So $9.43. So much more expensive than the other ones for like 236, but still cheaper than the US. And the woman there actually made sure they worked right there. And they even came with a 3-year warranty. So we bought those. They worked greatly. They still work greatly. All good. Also, when we walked into a big grocery store, most times we had to give up our backpack and then got a number for it, or they even put the ziplock around the zipper of the backpack so you couldn't open it anymore. Yes, I do get it because they worried about shoplifting, but it's so fucking annoying because I put all the bags in there, like empty bags in there to put our groceries in. So every time Paul was standing in line, I had to go outside to where we gave the backpack, and so give the number, get our backpack again, and then wait for Paul to go through the cashier so I could pack up our groceries. Or at the hypermarket where they put the ziplock around the zipper, I just took some scissors they were selling at that store with us, and right before we got in line, the scissors were like kind of open in the front, so I could just snap it off and put the scissors somewhere. I mean, I didn't want to buy the scissors, so I could open the backpack and get all my bags out there and put the groceries in. Oh, and when you leave a grocery store, you always have to show the receipt. And by the way, that was the same in Thailand. I think also with giving up the backpack, honestly, I don't remember. Maybe certain places you probably also had to give the backpack, yes. But yeah, showing the receipt when you leave the store. Not like in the Philippines and in Thailand, where we only got one female driver once. In Malaysia, where we spent only 20 days, in the Philippines we spent 6 weeks, in Thailand we spent 3 months, but we had then our own driver, just a Grab driver, then we always use the same. But so anyways, in Malaysia, where we spent 20 days, we only had female drivers, except for the first Grab driver that took us from the airport to the apartment. He was a guy. So apparently in Malaysia, it's much more common for females to drive as well. But Paul told me he doesn't really like the female drivers in Malaysia, so he thinks they don't really drive very well, the female drivers in Malaysia. Okay, so most attractions like museums, mini golf courses, forts, and other places have multiple entrance fees. And not just for like adults and children or even seniors. No, there was like a lower price for MyCat card holders. So first I thought, oh, it's like a museum pass or something. So once a year you buy this MyCat card and then you get all the entrance fees a little bit lower. So it's just a bit cheaper so for the entire year. But no, that's not the case. So the MyCat is a multifunctional identity card in Malaysia. So of course, it's only for Malaysian citizens and residents. It also functions as a driving license. So all Malaysian citizens are required to have one. So basically, as a tourist or as a non-Malaysian citizen, you pay more. What do I think about this? I don't really know. I don't really think it's that fair. So many people think about tourists being rich and wealthy. No, there are also a lot of tourists that are not rich. You can be a tourist and don't have a lot of money at all. And then also, I don't consider Paul and I as tourists. Well, yes, the dictionary says a tourist is a person who is traveling or visiting a place for pleasure. So yes, of course, we are doing that. And even when we have a trusted house sitter's job, here is our last one in Thailand, even then we are doing that. We still have pleasure. But for us, it's our life now, so I don't really consider ourselves as tourists. Visitors, yes, but not really tourists. And mostly we don't do touristy things at all. Yeah, of course, we do tourist stuff as well, but mostly we just shop where the locals shop, we live where the locals live. Most of our times we spend working out, working on the computer, spending time with the animals that we take care of, cooking, reading, and just live. With a nomadic lifestyle, living like a tourist would drain you. It's not like you are on vacation for a week or 2 or even 3 or 4 and you want to go see as many attractions as possible in that time. No, it is our life now. We live like that. Anyways, back to the higher prices for non-Malaysian citizens. So it's not like I'm outraged about that, but it's not really fair, isn't it? Or I don't know. I don't really know what to think. What do you think? Write it in the comments. People in Malaysia are much smaller. Not just women, also men. I'm clearly much taller than almost everyone there. It was quite rare that I saw someone just as tall as me or even taller. I am 5 foot 8.5 inches, 174 centimeters. I was actually thinking about that several times when we were still back in Reno, Nevada, the USA. Ooh, when we'll be in Asia, I will feel so tall. Ooh, it's going to be so cool. I will feel so tall. But no, I don't feel tall. So weird. I think it's because I grew up in Switzerland and lived a long time in the US, and there are lots of women clearly much taller than I am. And I know women that are clearly much taller than I am. And I remember there was a time, I don't know now, but there was a time, if you're not 5'9", 175 centimeters, you couldn't be a runway model. So I am clearly too short for that. Not that I ever wanted to be one. I wasn't even tall enough to do that. So I don't consider myself as tall. Yes, my height for a woman, again, 5'8.5", 174 centimeters, is clearly over average. I mean, there's so many really tiny women out in this world, but I just don't feel tall. And not surprisingly, that Netherlands have the highest average of tall women, almost 5 feet 6 inches. That's 170.36 centimeters. Even there, I'm clearly above average, but I just don't feel tall. I feel average. I feel like my height is average. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay tall.